You been to Vietnam?
He's going back later.
Yeah, there's a lot of people going back over there, right?
Yeah, I'm going in October to meet with other VQ people who also moved back.
Nope.
One thing we noticed there is that, it's communist now.
What do you think it was?
I thought it was north and south.
No, that's why we're all here.
Please give him a warm welcome. He hasn't been around these parts for a very long time.
Sometimes I feel kind of funny about the fact that my parents had to literally escape this country. My mom got crammed into a small boat. She lived through storms and literally 7 pirate attacks, only for her daughter to grow up, hop on a plane eating bread rolls and watching The Sopranos for 24 hours and go right back.
Didn't your mom date Burt Reynolds?
Tom Selleck.
Tom Selleck.
Hello, and welcome to The Hot Pot. My name is Nguyen Lei, and I will be hosting today's episode with our special guest, Fred Lei. No relation, by the way, as far as we know, right?
As far as we know.
So you guys just saw the teaser trailer for The Empathizer, a documentary that explores identity and the impact of trauma among overseas-born Vietnamese who grew up a generation removed from the war. Fred is the director and producer of The Empathizer and is also a stand-up comedian based out of LA and also the co-creator of the Vietnamese American comedy showcase called Embarrassed by Night. Fred, welcome to The Hot Pot.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being on. So first off, just tell us more about yourself, Fred, about your documentary, The Empathizer, and also what led you to eventually want to make a feature-length documentary movie.
Yeah. The Empathizer started out as a just an idea to go out with my buddy who is a director of photography he has a background in YouTube videos. And we wanted to just shoot what we thought was going to be a breezy, maybe 20-ish minute, just potpourri of interviews that were just going to be funny, of interviewing VQ people who moved back to the land that their parents fled, and just exploring that contradiction of undoing all of our parents' refugee work. And we started with just a modestly crowdsourced budget and went out and scheduled maybe a dozen interviews and shot. We were very fortunate with the potency of interview footage.
Yeah.
And in the edit, when we went out to go turn this into a 20-minute doc that was going to live on YouTube, we decided to turn it into a feature, which I don't recommend anybody do because that gets expensive very fast.
Yeah, I love hearing that origin story of how initially it was going to start off as a 20-minute video, which I didn't know, and turned out into a feature-length documentary. That's awesome. One of my favorite aspects of your documentary is how you weave in humor to talk about some heavy topics that get brought up in the documentary, like intergenerational trauma, identity, even mental health, which we'll touch more on those topics a little later. But tell me about your approach to those topics while you were filming the documentary. Was that something that you had in mind consciously to weave in humor? Or was it just something that was also brought up in the edit or whatever?
Oh yeah, we set out to shoot a funny documentary.
Yeah. And
I planned to just not even have any voiceover and just make it feel like, I don't know if you know the film Waking Life.
Yeah.
Yeah, Linklater.
Oh, okay, yeah.
No, you're thinking Scanner Darkly. But
That's
very similar. Yeah. Same director. But Waking Life is just kind of just a meandering, very weird documentary. It was just somebody just flowing through different conversations, and we wanted it to feel that way, and that's what we set out to shoot. So I knew I wanted to make these interviews very free, and so when I even met up with these people, we did a pre-interview with everybody and just made sure that we were just vibing. We didn't even talk about what we were gonna talk about. When you get two Vietnamese people together, it's gonna eventually get to some kind of a trauma centric conversation. Some of the interviews actually were taken by surprise by how deep we got. There was even one interviewee who was taken by surprise and just was like, I don't feel comfortable sharing this about my family on camera, but how about I interview you? That wasn't a conscious. They didn't say that like to the camera, but I could see that flip happen.
Yeah.
And that was like some of the best footage that we got.
Yeah.
To having the interviewer become the interviewer.
Yeah. Wow. And did that make it into the cut, like you being interviewed by the interviewee?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the process of turning it from a short into a feature, we realized that we were going to have to integrate this character of myself into it a lot more. Again, I keep saying that we got really lucky with some of the stuff that we shot, and that unplanned switch flip really became one of our North Stars in the edit.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what about the title of the doc, The Empathizer? I have an idea why you named it that, but I would like to hear from you how you landed on that title.
We thought it was funny.
Yeah, because it's a play on the sympathizer. Right?
Yeah, it's first of all, it is a play on the sympathizer, which we just wanted to pay homage to, just as like one of the most successful works of art from the Vietnamese diaspora, also from a Bay Area dude.
Yep.
So also wanted to shout out Viet T. It serves as that, like the homage, but also when we came up with the title, we just thought it was so funny and like ludicrous that like to name something that sounds like a Suicide Squad character or something.
Yeah.
But like the empathizer, just to it's kind of a wink to the audience that this character is not gonna have all the answers. It's a made up word.
Yeah.
And we also realize it kind of serves that purpose, that you're about to follow this protagonist that is not an expert.
So in the documentary, you do interview second generation Vietnamese people from the diaspora, or VietQ, as they're known in Vietnamese, who moved to Vietnam after being born in the US, like us, or France or Germany. You also moved to and lived in Vietnam for a few years, right? What do you think drove those people that you talked to in the documentary? What drove them to want to move to Vietnam, and how do you think they felt about being back in the motherland?
That question itself was actually what we set out to document when we went out to shoot our short. Actually, in our crowdsourcing video, that was almost exactly what I present to potential donors.
Oh, okay.
Like, I want to know why they moved back.
Yeah.
I want to know how they feel about living in this land that their parents fled. So we interviewed about a dozen, maybe 14 people, and they were all there for like many different reasons. They all found different reasons to stay. A lot of them were seeking adventure, business opportunities, escape. I mean, I know I was just looking for a change of pace. That was the reason why I decided to move to Hanoi shortly after Trump round one inauguration. And then we interviewed people who left for one reason and decided to stay for another. Found love, or they found a new opportunity. There's this kid who moved to Vietnam because he got an opportunity to try out for this pro basketball team over there, and then made the team, and now he's like a superstar. It's like face of the Vietnamese national team over there. There's no way he's coming back.
Right.
So it was great. I think we selected a really good spectrum of VQ people to talk to.
I'm curious, what made you want to move back to the U.S. after you lived in Hanoi for a few years?
Hanoi and Saigon.
Okay.
So I was in Saigon for 1 year after 2 years in Hanoi. Ultimately, after staying there, I had all these amazing opportunities and got to grow as a person, I think. But I felt like my heart was I'm still California at heart. I never felt like I was at home in Vietnam, despite residing there. But just being in LA, having access to open mics to get good at your stand-up craft and being around other creative people, access like that was the main reason why I decided to move back.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So going back to a lighthearted topic, intergenerational trauma. The documentary starts off with footage from the fall of Saigon when the North captured the South at the time in Saigon, um, which marked the end of the Vietnam War. This is definitely like an understated question, but what is the significance of that event to you and to your family?
I actually don't know the whole, like, I never sat down with my mom to really ask her, like, what was April 30th like? I know that for myself, that date was just a blind spot for me. Like, that date isn't really talked about. I still have friends who think that that was like a violent day. But did you know this? I didn't know this until I read a book that it was just a peaceful exchange of power.
Right.
Like,
Didn't know that.
yeah. Like, I have friends who are like, yeah, sometimes my dad talks about April 30th because we call it Black April
Right.
in our community. That's a heavy thing to call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we wanted to start the film with that because that is, of course, the date. But also using that as like kind of a North Star
Yeah.
to be like, all right, this is what we mourn. We wanted to depict it in like using actual footage because I see in other works of art of the Vietnamese diaspora that sometimes it's not depicted the way that went down. The Empathizer on HBO Max depicts it as a hail of bullets coming down the airport. And I thought it was important to use actual footage to like kind of, and it's only just like a quick montage.
Yeah.
So that we can just like quickly move on to like present day.
Right. Yeah. But also like grounds like your doc with like in history, right? And like it's like what you just said, like and then it cuts to like the modern day, which I appreciated. And I think kind of going back to like what that event means to us, I think that's like the difference between like first generation Vietnamese folks like our parents and like us, like again us being removed like a generation away from the war, where at least for me, like personally speaking, like it doesn't hit as much that event maybe compared to my parents, right, or to my older relatives. So which I think you guys explored in your documentary as well, in interviewing like the VitQ people.
Yeah, that's very interesting that you also didn't know. Like we all have this blind spot, even though we're like our parents experienced it, and yet like we just don't have these conversations to get closer to that, and we kind of just like live our lives not really knowing. And that's kind of the heart of our film too, is like to encourage people to have these conversations, even though they're like not super comfortable.
Yeah. Well, on that topic, I think there is a lot of like unchecked mental health issues, especially amongst first generation Vietnamese Americans, due to like the unhealed trauma of the war and things not being talked about, right? Which I think also has possibly seeped into like second generation Vietnamese folks, like that intersection between unhealed trauma and mental health. I'm curious like what your thoughts are on that. And also like, did you talk to people in your documentary about that, the intersection between the unhealed trauma from our parents and maybe like any mental health issues that might have affected them?
I am no expert, but of course, like, you know, you get two VQ people together, we're going to start talking about something close to that. No, by speaking with specifically VQ people who are the same generation as myself, I just wanted to touch on what the effects of living with our parents looks like.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, yeah, I don't know a whole lot, but I'm here, and it's a different Vietnam than my parents tell me about, if they even told me about it. And we wanted to keep that lane specifically just to like document what Vietnam is to people who didn't hear a lot about Vietnam.
Yeah. So in the doc, you also talk about, you know, your family and their experience from the war and coming to the U.S. as refugees. I'm curious, by the end of filming the documentary, did you feel like you learned anything new about yourself or your family or just VitQ people in general?
I think the biggest lesson that I learned was just the experience of having so many of these awesome conversations that usually take place in, you know, a dive bar
Yeah.
or something, and they're just like, but you know, having cameras rolling and really being like present in them was very helpful. What did I learn? That I don't have the answers. That was probably the biggest lesson, especially by the big climax of the film. We have like a surprise guest that really, some would say, hands me my ass. But it's you know, it's really great to just like have these conversations, and that's like kind of what these subsequent screenings of our film is really like centering around. Like, what do these conversations feel like? What can they look like, and what can they bring to help us heal?
Yeah. So I know you're currently screening the movie, going to different cities too. How's that been, showing the Empathizer in front of live audiences?
Oh, it's been awesome. It's really helped me like understand the potency of our film.
Yeah.
A lot more, and to have these conversations. We've been partnering with this group of Vietnam, which is a mostly Vietnamese American nonprofit that is all about having these conversations. And they've put together some programming, like post-screening programming, that they've accompanied our screenings at several times. And what we did, like I just came back from Chicago like 2 weeks ago. We did a screening and then had breakout groups where, you know, we all sat around in a circle and just like used one word to describe how we feel about the film, and that sparked like more discussion and people sharing about what the content of the film like inspires within them.
Yeah.
And that's been really, really eye-opening.
Yeah.
To hear like people are like, this conversation feels just like this one that I never had with my parents, or, you know, this makes me want to learn more about my own family, how I am the way that I am.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So what's next for the documentary? How can folks watch it?
We will continue to put on what are called community screenings, hopefully around the U.S. At this time, we have 2 screenings coming up in December, one December 5th in Oakland at the Oakland Asian Community Center, which will be a free screening. Also, December 14th in Los Angeles, that'll be a hometown screening, plus little post-screening activities. One cool thing about the film is that it's little, it's got a lot of facets to it. There's the comedy aspect. My editor is a chef, so we've been doing like dinner screenings as well. And also, like I mentioned, Vietnam, having like the post-screening discussion. So we've been trying whatever we can to like bring all self-produced, all learning as we go. But hopefully, a city near you.
And how can viewers stay tapped into the project? Like, what's your guys' social media tags, or do you guys have a website?
Yeah, on Instagram is where we make all of our announcements and keep people updated about screenings. At Empathizer Doc on Instagram. We should probably use our mailing lists more often. But if you want to sign up for that, we'd be happy to. That's available on our website, empathizerdoc.com.
Awesome. Fred, that's all the questions I have. That wraps up our interview, and just want to thank you so much for your time, for sharing your story, for sharing the movie with us. I know we're all excited about what's next for the Empathizer.
Thank you.
And to our audience at home, thanks so much for watching this episode. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, and we'll catch you in the next episode.